Hey guys, this is Drew Keel with the QB Docs. I had a great call this past week with a parent asking about really how his son should get started in the weight room. His son's a seventh grade quarterback who's looking for a program. Really, where do I start? What exercises do I perform? Why should I perform them? What is the relationship between force production, range of motion? How do I build strength and power without losing these ranges of motion in the shoulders and the hips and the spine? I had a great call. If you guys want to jump on a call like this to discuss the question that you have, look at the email that's listed above. That's a good way to get in touch with us. I'll get in touch with you guys and we can get a call set up. Hope you guys enjoyed today's call.
Sure. I think one of the things is as he starts lifting, what's the appropriate daily schedule for lifting and bands and all those things? And we looked at the ebook. That would be a good daily routine for a seventh grader where he doesn't, there's a lot of stuff on myth or not myth about growth plates and all that kind of stuff, where he can kind of start building a base, even if it's for core and even the smaller muscles.
Sure. So if you're just starting out, I would say make it very simple. So get really good at planks, get really good at doing a proper push-up, get really good at doing proper squatting techniques, and then making sure that you have the capability to squat, also the capability to hinge. So like, I don't know if you're familiar with the weight room at all or not, Paul, but there's definitely a difference between hinging like a deadlift and squatting. Those are two very distinct and different movements.
Right.
Getting good at just basic pulling, pressing, horizontal pulling, vertical pressing, vertical pulling. Just keeping it very basic, I think is good for right now. Now, with that being said, since you are a thrower, we kind of get into this dichotomy of, if you do start to layer on some of these force production strategies, so such as like a deadlift, squats, all your big barbell compound lifts are to build force production, which is what will be great for you since you're a young guy. All right, but you have to be taught the proper technique, so we're layering on strength and power the right way, and it's not dysfunctional. Because once you start to get into some of those dysfunctional movement patterns, especially in those big compound movements, you start to hit this law of diminishing returns where, once you become a junior or senior in high school, that force production will plateau and you'll start to steal some range of motion in your shoulder, spine, and hips, which for a pitcher and a quarterback is exactly what you don't want to do, right? So
I think that's kind of what got us interested, because we saw what you were talking about with Tebow.
Yes.
Where he's bulked up so much that it's compromised his range of motion.
Yes.
So how do we kind of at this level begin to progress where he can grow but not compromise future movement?
So that's a great question. So initially, right now, the squats and the cleans, as long as you're taught the right way, aren't going to be bad for you right now. All right. Now, what's going to be important for you as time goes on is for you to find a movement specialist like a PT or some sort of strength coach that's well-versed in measuring ranges of motion and doing that, just because there has to be some key performance indicators on the front end that you're measuring and evaluating over time. So, for example, if you're trying to increase force production to increase velocity on a baseball, right? So I'm trying to increase my velocity on my fastball from, let's say, 62 miles an hour to I'm trying to hit 68, right? And a lot of the things that you do to get to that point are to increase force production measures while you maintain that range of motion so you can get high velocities, all right? But at some point, you're going to hit that plateau, and you're going to need to know when that is. And the only way you can do that is to have those key performance indicators in place. And a lot of times it's looking at ranges of motion and measuring shoulder range of motion. So internal and external rotation. It's looking at the rotational measures of the hips, the rotational measures of the spine. And you can even do performance indicators. So I know for us, like a couple big performance indicators on the field as a quarterback would be, do you miss high on throws consistently? Because that's going to point to a lot of issues within the body. Another one is, can you look to your left and throw in rhythm to the left? Because that's going to require a lot of thoracic rotation to the left. It requires a lot of eccentric capabilities to the hip. So like there's just a lot of things that you can look at, but it has to be under the context of what the goal actually is for you too, right? And that's, so really, long story short, it's where are you at in this moment in time? What are those key performance indicators that are important to you in the context of, whether you're playing baseball or football? And as you start to progress through this whole weightlifting continuum, making sure that you still are constantly reevaluating and constantly reassessing those indicators and make sure that you're not having some of those ranges of motion stolen. It's a process. It's not perfect by any means, because everybody is different too. So everybody's going to be a little bit different from individual to individual on what they can do, what their genetics say that they can do. So some people are naturally going to be better squatters, some are naturally going to be better hingers, and a lot of times that has to do with just the natural makeup of the body too, right? So I would say finding a good movement specialist, whether it's a strength coach that you guys know or a PT or whatever it may be, to kind of constantly dial these things in and just constantly check, would be the best approach to this.
So if you were to come up with a real practical, like Mondays focus on Tuesdays, is it that systematic at this point, or is that kind of a strength coach kind of a question? Or
Well, I think it all just depends on what your activities look like too during the week. I mean, the more simple that you can be right now when it comes to the program design isn't as important. What's important is looking at those, let's say, 6 to 10 movements that he's going to be asked to do in the weight room, especially early on. The squats, the hinges, all the different pushes and pulls, the push-ups, planks, making sure that he's doing those the right way initially. That's important, because once he starts to add weight to whatever he's doing, it needs to be with good technique so he doesn't get hurt, right? Because that's, if you think about all the tendinitises, all the low back pain, that type of stuff where it's like nagging but it's not keeping him off the field, right, that stuff can be decreased. The risk of those things can be decreased if he's mindful of what his technique looks like, and what good technique is and what bad technique is. And also, we fell into this category too, to not get so caught up with what others are doing around you from a weight standpoint. Realize that there's going to be guys that are older than you and stronger than you, but don't let your technique break down because of trying to keep up with those guys. That's important too, especially as a quarterback. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions, or?
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Just about like habits at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, for you, like you being a 7th grader, I mean, I think it's you getting introduced to the weight room is really important, but just being active too, and continuing to play your sport and just get off your phone too. That's one thing that, like, with young guys, we work with a lot of your guys your age, and their posture becomes so bad from being down here like this for long periods of time, to where we have to take 3 steps back to move 5 forward, because we're working on some postural things to get them to be able to get underneath the bar before they can even do that. So just stay active. I mean, you look like an active dude, athletic guy. So just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be good.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. But Paul, if you have any questions, I know that my brother Dusty is doing all of our program design for this type of stuff. So if you ever want to talk to him, if you're interested in doing something like that with us, just let us know.
Yeah.
But honestly,
we just don't want to take a wrong step because we don't know. His older brother is getting ready to leave in 2 weeks to be a kicker at a D1 school.
Oh, good for him.
So that's a whole nother genre of movement. And so we've kind of learned over the years what his lifting thing, but we knew enough to know this is going to be different. I played soccer in college, so I'm of little to no help on this as well. And we just we want to minimize future regret and also, like you said, prevent injuries before they're happening because we've just started the path at a very small level the right way. We just don't know what that is.
Yeah. And it's tough. And that's hard I wish I could just give you this blueprint, like the quarterback blueprint to success. And, I could get you probably 70% of the way there and be very vague. But I think that 30% that I would be leaving out would be something that's kind of the difference maker, right? That's the difference maker between being good and maybe having some injuries, but instead of being great and really being an efficient mover, right? So just be simple for right now. The more simplified you can be, the better. I'm going to keep posting a bunch of stuff. So just make sure you stay tuned to that. And I can even do some videos on basic movements and exercises for young people to perform, to kind of get acclimated to the weight room.
Sure.
I know one really good exercise I like doing is it's called a goblet squat.
Okay.
Where you load the kettlebell in front, and that really helps teach the athlete to go actually perform a squat straight down versus, I'm sure you've seen guys whenever they squat, they bring their hips and butt really far back and they arch really far and their eyes go up and they're just super overextended. I mean, you see that in every weight room around the country, and you don't want that. That's something that you want to stay away from. So finding somebody that can look at your squat, Ellis, and really determine, number one, do you have the capability to do it the right way? And if not, what are some things that you need to work on to be able to do it the right way? And then if you can't, what are some regressions? And that goblet squat's a really good first initial progression that anybody can do and be successful with. So,
yeah.
But get good at push-ups. And I'm going to give you another tip on push-ups. So if you're doing a push-up and you know how guys that will do push-ups in this really shortened range of motion where it's almost like this, make sure you fully extend and make sure that you keep that upper back. Guys will pinch their shoulder blades together. Don't do that. Never pinch your shoulder blades together on a push-up because that's going to create some compression on the backside of the upper back, which is going to decrease your ability to have external rotation in your shoulders. And that's exactly what you want. So you never want to rob from this position as a quarterback and especially as a pitcher, because pitchers really have to get back there in their delivery to be successful. So if you are doing a push-up, make sure you hollow everything out and then do your push-up instead of retracting those scapulas and doing it from there and doing it in a shortened range of motion. You might be able to become bulky through that. Guys can get really, really strong in that short range of motion, but that's once you start stealing that range of motion, that's whenever you start to have some of the shoulder impingements, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, low back pain, all those things start to happen. So
great.